Is going on, everybody? It is Sunday morning, so that means it is time for the I-71 Playbook Podcast. I'm BB, and with me, as always, is the dapper-looking BC. How are we, sir?
I'm miserable, BB. I'm miserable. I woke
Oh,
up. I woke up yesterday with a pretty bad head cold, and you know,
ooh,
yeah, it just it's been lingering. Woke up feeling a little better today, and it's starting to hit me again. So we are going to truck through this because you know what? Sometimes you got to play hurt. It's
that's
just the way
right.
it's the way of the world. You just got to make it
That's
happen.
right.
And
You
plus,
gotta,
I
you gotta
mean,
power through.
let's be honest, podcasting, I'm sitting in my basement in shorts. You guys can't see my wonderful wardrobe. It's not too terrible of a thing to have to sit here just a little stuffy. So,
I
if there's
mean,
a weird edit cut, that's because BB later on in editing is going to have to cut out me going on a sneezing fit. But, she's the best, and that's why that stuff happens. Okay, let's do this. Let's
I'll
roll.
tell you now. You get two. I'll bless you twice, and then after that, you are a demon, and you need to be dealt with, and you need to get your life together. So, I'm letting you know now. Um, so we kind of left last week on the verge of Mother's Day. How was your Mother's Day with Mama BC?
We had a nice time. We had a nice time.
Yeah,
She had a good
good.
time. Got dinner. Yeah. No, it was just we had a nice dinner and then spent quite a bit of time with her on Sunday. So it was nice. She had a good time, and that's all that matters. His mom had a good time.
Yes,
So
yes,
how about
absolutely. We
how
love
about
Mama
how
BC.
I was gonna say how about you guys? I know you went on a road trip to see your mom.
I did. Her and I kind of met in the middle. So she is about 3.5 hours from where I am to Lorain County, where she lives, and I found somewhere that was literally like 2 hours for both of us. So got some really awesome Mexican food.
Nice.
Shout out to Pepper's Mexican Grill in Milan for the Mother's Day feast that my mother and I were able to do. It was nice. We had to spend some time together. She absolutely loved the present that my person and I got for her, which is an antique uh, land camera. And what they are is basically they're the ones that kind of like fold out and they look like little accordions and stuff like that. So since she's retired, she's gotten really into photography,
Okay.
and so she was ecstatic. Like she was playing with it at the restaurant like she was a little kid. I was like, okay, just please don't drop it. That would be bad.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
But good times. Also, glad neither one of us ended up in Oz the
Oh
last
yeah.
couple of days.
Uh,
Ooh,
you uh, yeah, you said what was it Thursday night? You guys were
Thursday night.
yeah, the tornado sirens going on, and then
Yeah, it was nuts because we were sitting there and we were watching The Righteous Gemstones, honestly. And it's about like 9:30. I'm almost falling asleep on the couch to be honest with you. And then all of a sudden I start to hear something. And where we live, um it's a suburb, but it's also a pretty heavily populated. So hearing emergency sirens like ambulances and fire trucks is no big deal. And then we start hearing sirens that are not the norm, and it's the tornado siren. And that's I looked at him and we kind of were like, okay, everybody get your stuff, get the cats. We're going to the basement. Um, so thankfully, the worst of it missed us. I guess there were about 12 confirmed tornadoes um, in the area. So thankfully, we never lost power. It flickered. It never went out. We just got a really nasty thunderstorm, and we sent the rest of it down to you because I guess
yeah.
Friday night you had a little bit of adventure too.
Friday night, geez, I don't know what time it was 10:30, 11.
Mhm.
I I hear, oh my God, the patio is blown away, and so I run out to
Oh
the
no.
patio. Yeah, I run out to the patio, and we had just bought a new cover for our outdoor furniture, and it was just
Hmm.
I go grab it like it's just fluttering away. It's being held down by
Just
one part
gone.
of it. Yeah. And then and it felt like probably 40, 50 mile per hour ones just in the rain, just
Ooh.
fighting Mother Nature, which is never you're never going to win that. Was able to at least get it pinned down enough to cover. Yeah, it was pretty nasty. Woke up to a bunch of branches and everything. Once again,
Ooh.
like you could have been worse. Just low cleanup in the yard. But hey, it's that time of year. As we're getting toward the
Yeah.
summer, like springtime and fall, worst storms.
Worst storms. Some of the,
Be-
I mean, some of the best
it-
storms, but also the worst.
yeah, if you're watching this from a different part of the country, Ohio weather and Michigan's very similar.
Hmm.
You know, the worst storms aren't the snowstorms or anything. You can prepare for those. You can that's coming. Um,
Hmm.
these summer storms are usually just thunderstorms. It's the spring and the fall when you get just the awful weather. And
Yeah.
yeah, that was definitely for us. I think it looks like we both kind of avoided catastrophe this week, but yeah,
Well,
pretty
unfortunately,
gross.
who did not avoid catastrophe, and now that their season is officially over, we can talk about them again. The Cleveland Cavaliers did not escape the second round. Unfortunately, the Indiana
It,
Pacers kind
it's not
of
our
stunned the
fault.
world a little bit.
Did we do it? Did we
No,
absolutely? Okay, that's one. All
no.
right, got
We joke,
all the guilt has left me. My shoulder. I
we
feel freer.
we joke about it, but unfortunately, I think it was a combination of the injuries that just really, really. I mean, we had guys that weren't 100%, but we're still trying to push it through. Um, and Indiana just, they were a sleeper team. They were not expected to make the playoffs at all, and they shocked the world. Oh,
Did
what do we
you
got here?
did you read my notes? I said summing up the Cavs, untimely injuries, and a really playoff ready Pacers team who should get all the credit in the world for playing the way they did.
We're like this.
Yeah.
We
Okay.
like this.
Yeah. Mm. So yeah, no,
Um,
I
that was
wholeheartedly
a
agree.
bummer.
It is.
I mean, they had a record-breaking season, a historic record-breaking season for them. But unfortunately, and there's a lot of people who are what ifing and doing the Cleveland whatever. Honestly, Indiana was the stronger team. So I have nothing but props to them. Go kick ass in the
Yeah.
next round, make the Eastern Conference proud. But the small silver lining that we do have is that now that yes, our Cavaliers are eliminated and they are getting golf times as well. Um, the Boston Celtics were also eliminated. So now ESPN does not have a clear team to show bias for.
Oh,
So I don't know.
they're gonna be on the Knicks bandwagon. They're gonna jump right all over the Knicks. You know that. Yeah, they're gonna shift. Yeah, we didn't think the Celtics are good, and then Jason Tatum gets hurt. They've been showing me blah blah blah, and then they're gonna make excuses. Well, LeBron's 40. Well, LeBron's 80, and then they're gonna say the Golden State Warriors average age of the team is 48, and they're gonna make up excuses for all those teams. They're gonna talk about how disappointing the Cavs were, and they're gonna jump right over to the Knicks bandwagon until the Knicks lose to the Pacers, and then they'll jump on to whoever the Western Conference
Right,
team is. Like
right.
it's so
So
predictable. It's so
it
predictable.
is. It is. So congratulations to the Cavs again on uh
It
their
was a fun
historic
season,
regular season. It was a fun season to watch. And you got me to give a shit about basketball. So that's
and
definitely a
and
props to
you know
you.
I want to remind everybody out there they're returning almost everybody. They're going to be really good
Yeah.
next year. They're going to give it another shot next year, and they're going to have a year in this system. You have to remember there's a couple things here. After the initial shock, me, I like to go back and kind of relitigate what happened,
Hmm.
and you know they had a new coach. They have a new system.
Hmm.
He made that combination where you have two bigs and two smaller guards work like it's never worked really since the 80s.
Yeah.
Give him some more time to cook, let him get in the kitchen, let him figure this out. There'll be a couple personnel changes, but you're going to relatively bring back the same roster. They're still
Hmm.
young.
Oh,
They're still
absolutely.
young. I had a friend of mine say, now do we just let Donovan go? I'm like, what are we talking about? He had his best.
Why?
Donovan Mitchell, numbers wise, was not his best season, but he has best season as an NBA pro, and that's saying something this year. He was
Right.
incredible this year, and just like let's take a deep breath. They're going to be a championship contender for the next couple years with this core. Just deep
Hmm.
breath. This was not the year. Once again, like you said, some untimely injuries. They were playing hurt.
Yeah,
Indiana played out of their mind, and once again, you tip the cap to them. And
absolutely.
you go back at it next year where you have a championship window right now for the Cavs. So
Yeah,
let's
absolutely. It,
embrace that. Let's have some fun with this team. Hopefully, they stay a little healthier next year, and win the Eastern Conference and go to the finals.
I mean, it's not a complete situation, and I know a lot of Cleveland sports fans aren't really used to this. It's not a tear it all down and rebuild. At
Oh
this point,
God,
it's a reload.
yeah.
It's just
This
it's rest up, reload, and
yeah,
and come back for revenge. So
it,
um,
just compliment.
they'll be all
You
right.
know, the unfortunate thing for the Cavs during this playoff series was, and we saw one little stretch in February where they went cold. They were like 5-4,
Hmm.
and then they snapped out of it. Darius started playing well again. Everything started going. They went cold in the series, and when you are
Right.
dependent on just shooting the living daylights out of a team, that's what's going to happen.
So let's go away from the arena district. Let's kind of go out to the outskirts of the city. Rookie camp is heating up. We've got some stuff to talk about there. But you have some stuff to talk about Berea. So what do we
Yeah.
got going on?
So
Because I don't see the unfortunately I don't see the local media anymore. So I did not see this the oh, here comes the hat. Oh boy. Okay.
so so kids,
It's business.
repeat after
It's business
me.
time.
White billionaires get what white billionaires want in America. And that's where we're going to start with this because this week there's a lot of breadcrumbs happening with the Brook Park Stadium project, Jimmy World, whatever you want to call it. Uh,
A bad idea.
BB, did you see that there was a meeting in Columbus, Jimmy and Dee Haslam with Roger Goodell and outgoing lame duck governor Mike DeWine? Did you happen to see that?
No, I
Yeah.
somehow missed all of that.
So
That
so
sounds
th-
like
so
I'm
this
having a
meeting had.
Hamilton moment at the moment because
I'm
no
trying.
one
I'm
else
trying
is
to
going to
figure.
be in the room when that happens.
So that's where I thought you were going with this. So they that happens. That meeting happens earlier this week, in the early like Monday or Tuesday. I can't remember which day.
Okay.
Then fast forward to Thursday, and the Cleveland Browns, the Haslam Sports Group, writes a scathing letter to the Cuyahoga County Commissioners, where
Ooh.
they are using their pen, the lightning in the pen here, with a very cocky and arrogant tone, which tells me they have been told they're getting this money. They're getting that $600 million they wanted. And so, that all being said, they write a letter. You can go online and look at the letter. I'll give you the Cliff Notes version. Hey, Cuyahoga County, you're a bunch of idiots for not getting on board with this. That was the gist of the letter. Now, they do bring up there's a couple things here. Once again, I go back. Jimmy was always getting this building. Once it was decided they want to do this building, they're going to get this building. He has poured millions upon millions of dollars into Donald Trump's campaign, Mike DeWine's campaign, Senate and House Republicans in Ohio's campaigns. He's getting this money. I want people to understand how this works.
Yeah.
He bet on the right
Essentially,
horse.
well, you want to say he did on the right horse. I'm just going to say he put on his financial knee pads and did what he wanted to
Yeah.
do. There's
No,
that.
no, he knew what he's doing. As we know, he is. There's a good old boys network. We've talked about this numerous times with Roger Goodell.
Right.
Goodell makes sure stuff happens, and DeWine being done as governor has nothing to lose. I'm sure there's some money that is going to go toward his causes in the future. You know, Mike and Franny are going to be set up here pretty well. And I'm not saying anything typically illegal. You know, it's not like a $40 million luxury jet from a different country or whatever, however much that jet costs from Qatar. I was like $180 million, something like that. Nothing like that actually breaks the Constitution and the Emoluments Clause. Whole different story. But there was a lot of glad handing, and then the Browns fire out this letter to Cuyahoga County saying, like, look, we're doing this, and you're idiots for not supporting us. There was one thing they did bring up in the letter, though, that kind of stuck out that I thought actually was a good point. And I think Cleveland should use this. The city, I think Cuyahoga County, and let's be honest, Cuyahoga County is the city of Cleveland. Let's be 100% honest about this.
Yeah.
I think there was something in this letter that really stuck out, and they had mentioned the growth of Cincinnati and Columbus versus the stagnation of Cleveland. They literally brought up, like I said, they were firing bombs. They were throwing grenades at Cleveland. And you know, I actually did a little research. Columbus is a top 10 growing city in America, still is. Columbus is going to have over 1 million people here within the next 10 years. They're just under now. And just so people know, there's only 11 cities in America with 1 million people. Columbus is the 14th largest populated city in America after the last census. They will be a top 10 city by the next census, which is an incredible growth. And if you know anything, if you've been down to Columbus, it is enormous. Like basically anything that is within the surrounding loop of 270, you know, right here, this guy right here, you know, it's Columbus. It's growing exponentially, and you know, good for them. And whatever they're doing is working when it comes to growth. I didn't realize this. Also, Cincinnati is a top 50 fastest growing city in America. Cincinnati is growing.
If you've ever had to drive through Cincinnati at rush hour, you'll know exactly how much they're growing.
Yeah, unfortunately, going through Columbus or Cincinnati at rush hour, you have to go through 71 high pod, and it is not a lot of fun. You try to, especially if you're going on a trip down south, you try to avoid those times. But these two cities are thriving. Ohio overall actually is growing, but the one kind of black eye on all this growth is Cleveland. Cleveland is not growing. Cleveland is still the #1 per capita big city in America for crime. And so, you know, this gets a little bigger than a stadium. But one thing this letter did point out is Cleveland is going to have to take a look in the mirror. The city really does. You know, instead of fighting a stadium, and I don't care what the stats are. It like, you know me, BB. I'm a common sense kind of guy. You know, if we have a stadium on the lakefront that is, we've talked about my disdain for the stadium that I poured, you know, probably now by this time tens of thousands of dollars in as a season ticket holder, former season ticket holder. We have a stadium that is not just, it's just one of the worst stadiums in the NFL. It is very, very hard to accept. You know, it's not accessible. They have maybe 13 to 14 actual active dates in a stadium that holds 70,000 people. The city of Cleveland is trying to gaslight me to believe that Brook Park with 180 dates is not a better economic motivator than Cleveland with 14 dates. Like, there's just, you know, it's just bewildering. Like, I don't care what studies or what they cite, whatever. It's bewildering to think that the city of Cleveland and Cuyahoga County right now is trying to tell me that Cleveland Brown Stadium, where it currently is better economically for the county and the state than a state-of-the-art, which when it is built will be probably the nicest indoor facility in the world. That's going to bring 180 active dates of stuff happening in it, including a Super Bowl for the first time in Cleveland history, WrestleMania for the first time in Cleveland history, NCAA championships for the first time, Taylor Swift concerts, whoever. You're trying to tell me that is not better economically than the 14 dates on the lakefront. That's literally their argument.
I hear what you're saying. There's a lot of issues that I also have with this, and you and I have kind of gone about this on off pod. We've done an on pod. The current infrastructure where they want to build Haslamtopia cannot sustain what they're bringing in. And then, truthfully, the amount of headaches and issues and just general pain in the assness of when they're going to build this, because it's not going to be done in just 6 months. It's not going to be done in a year. This is going to be a multi-year project. And when you have one access road into the only international airport in Cuyahoga County, that's going to be a huge issue.
So,
and the current infrastructure cannot sustain that.
You just said it, the current infrastructure. And this is a note you just added to my argument. Because guess what's going to happen? By the way, they were already pouring $10 billion into Hopkins. We talked about that on here. There is a $10 billion expansion of Hopkins, which includes the very infrastructure you're talking about, because Hopkins is not easy to get in and out of. We've all been there. It's not easy. They are trying, like seriously, just go down 71, go from Hopkins right here down here to John Glenn International Airport in Columbus. It's night and day. Columbus is their airport is so friendly, so user friendly.
It is.
Dropping off, picking up, like it's ridiculous.
So tying up 237 with construction though is going to be a huge pain in the ass. Not just for travelers, it's going to be for the local people as well.
It is, but there's going to be some short-term pain, but the long-term gain for that region, for Northeast Ohio, is going to be just astonishing. And they're going to, trust me, they didn't just say, hey, we're going to drop this. We're not going to just drop this in here, because you're right. We're going to see ground broken this fall. They want this up and running by 2028. So they got, it gives them 3 years to build this place. I don't know if the Browns
I think that's going to be cutting it close.
Yeah, I think the Browns' first season there was supposed to be the 29 season, but I believe they want to have actual events going by 2028. And so, regardless, whatever the time frame is, they've taken all this into consideration. And this is where I come back at you on this. How many more jobs do they have to put for this construction? Because it's not just that building. It is ODOT. It is the county are going to have to bring more people in and pay more people to do this work. It is engineers. Right. It is just your common, person standing there with the stop go sign. They're going to have to bring a ton of jobs into this. So once again, I don't see the downside, except for people who are butthurt that they can't watch the game like they did in Municipal Stadium 40 years ago on the lakefront, which, by the way, Municipal Stadium was garbage too.
Yes, it was.
I can remember peeing in a trough at Municipal Stadium. Like, seriously, that's an experience that I had as a child. Yeah, I had to stand next to people, all our junk out, peeing in a trough. Why? Because Municipal Stadium was garbage. Huntington Bank Field, and once again, we know my problem with the Haslams, but tip of the cap, they have made that as good as they could be. The way it was built in '99 was garbage. It was rushed. They've tried to keep it up. They've tried to do everything. It needs to be a relic. We do not need football on the lakeside.
Okay, so this also is going to be rushed. They want it up and operational by 2028. We are almost 6 months into 2025. So that's nearly 2.5 years.
That's about what it's taken for SoFi, Minnesota. Like, that's kind of the time frame. The time frame is right on, and
But also, here's the other thing: is the fact that yes, it's going to bring all of this kind of jobs and things like that into the area. You're not wrong. But on the flip side of that is when this opens, it's going to completely price out anyone from going.
No, I get that, but it's going to be full. And why is it going to be full? Because the market will correct. The market will correct. We've talked about on the pod here, like the Absolutely. I bought four tickets to the Raiders Browns game last year in the Legion. And it was 1,600
Right.
bucks with fees. With fees, it was $1,600 for the same seats that I had basically season tickets. So basically, what I paid for season tickets in Cleveland, I paid for one game at Allegiant. But
Right.
Vegas is much more expensive. And once again,
Right.
you're gonna
Which is
pay.
why that's a
You're gonna
different
have to
story
pay.
because Vegas is
Yep.
actually eating itself right now because
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
can't sustain. But that's another topic in a
And
pod.
and and let you know exactly another topic in the pod. If we're going to get to the macroeconomics of America right now, we can't sustain any of this.
No, no.
And there's going to be, for all our fans that are, extremely pro capitalism, capitalism is going to come back with a vengeance here in a little bit. And we can't sustain the prices of everything. We can't sustain the entertainment costs, concert costs. Well, let's get into Blossom.
Okay.
Get into Blossom.
So
It's $60 for a lawn seat in Blossom.
here's a perfect example. Here's a perfect example. You want to talk about ticketing costs? I just bought 4 tickets for an event that you and the lovely Mrs. BC will be meeting us in Detroit for. And the price of the tickets themselves weren't terrible. But when I get to the checkout and I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah.
It's because of the fees.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that needs to be studied all on its own is the ticketing industry.
Yep.
Because it's absolutely gotten out of hand.
It has.
So,
and like you said, yeah, that was the tickets at Allegiant were $240 a piece. Astronomical for where we were. But
right.
Each ticket was like $380 after fees.
Right.
I'm like, yeah, that's a whole new pod. That's another pod for us. But I want to just circle back to where we were on this whole thing.
We're both getting a little feisty. Let's
circle back. Folks, the stadium's happening.
It is.
After that letter, there is no more, like, after that letter, after we see the Browns meet with DeWine and Roger Goodell, then this letter follows it. That is a telltale sign that they know they got the money in the bag. It's happening. They're getting that money. There's going to be boots on the ground in the fall to start, breaking ground, and there's going to be some big ceremony with Jimmy and Dee and JW and their daughter and all that stuff. They're going to be doing this, and they'll probably have a couple prominent Browns. Miles will probably be out there, and the ghost of Jim Brown or whatever, whatever's going to happen. Bernie will be out there, but it's going to happen. It's going to be a big deal. They're going to pump up, which we're going to talk about our next one. We're going to segue into our next topic here in a second.
Ooh.
But they're going to bring out a couple faces of the franchise from this draft. Like, it's going to be a big deal. Like, that's all going to happen. And, the city of Cleveland needs to make a choice. They could continue to waste millions of taxpayers' money to fight this in court and lose, because that's what's going to happen. We've talked about the litigation and really the unenforceable nature of the Modell law. It's not really enforceable, especially in this instance.
Well, hold on. In this situation, it's not. In other situations, yes, it is enforceable.
And we talked about the cost of the Modell law if they invoke it on this. They're like, hey, we don't want you moving the team 1 mile outside the city, because that's going to go to federal court, get struck down as unconstitutional. Like, it's just not going to pass the smell test. It has not been challenged beyond there. It was challenged locally in Columbus. The Haslams used it to their advantage, but for this to move not even a mile, like across the street, like we're talking feet from Cleveland proper, it's just ridiculous. But anyway, that all being said, once again, hats on backwards. Why? Because billionaires get what billionaires want in this country, and until that stops, we're going to be holding them. Once again, as we keep electing billionaires, of course, they're going to take care of billionaires, and that's just where we are in this country. And that's why this stadium's going to get built without question. It's happening. But BB, let's get back onto the field here. We had rookie minicamp last week. Right as we were potting, we had our first look at our QB battle here of the spring and summer between Shedeur and Dylan. Gabriel, what did you see happen with it?
I saw some pretty healthy competition, actually. It made me a little bit cautiously optimistic, as I usually am about this time when it deals with Browns football. Not quite drinking the Kool-Aid quite yet. Not really sure, but it's cautiously optimistic. I like what I see. And I see two kids who are hungry. That's what I see. They're both vying for the same spot. They're both trying to prove themselves. And it's kind of neck and neck. So it'll be very, very interesting to see how it kind of goes on.
So, once again, we've said our piece. I actually got quite a bit of comments personally about my rant last week about Mr. Shedeur Sanders and my defense of him. Yeah, no. Most people seem to agree that there's just some inherent bias amongst the NFL teams, the 32 teams against this kid. And that all being said, we're now into football. That doesn't matter. He was drafted in the 5th round. Dylan Gabriel, 3rd round. Now it's about the competition.
Right. Now it's time to go to work.
I want to go back a year ago, last training camp. So a year ago, July, August. And I'm watching the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show, which is, as you know, I try to watch as much as I can. I love that show. I love those guys on the panel and everything. And Zach Jackson from The Athletic came on. And all you heard was, this new offense, this Ken Dorsey offense is going to be incredible. Like, they're going to be up-tempo, RPO, blah, blah, blah. Deshaun looks great. And Zach Jackson came on there.
It was incredible. Not for the reason that he was trying to say. It was just incredibly bad. So, carry on.
Zach Jackson comes in with the biggest bucket of cold water and says, this team's going to be bad. Like he said, this offense is garbage. And no other said, and I can remember listening to him. That's how I'm hearing from Mary Kay and Tony Grossi and all these. And Zach Jackson's like, no, this is not good. This is not going to work. And my God, was he right? And now there's a reason. The reason I bring Zach up, because this week he comes on UCSS after a weekend of watching Shedeur and Dylan Gabriel, and he said, Dylan Gabriel looks good, but Shedeur is absolutely winning his quarterback battle, and it's not even close. He looks like an NFL starting quarterback out there. And when Zach Jackson speaks, he's one of those guys you listen to because he's usually right. And so, for the very brief look that anybody got, the Browns put a lot of film out. Zach Jackson was there, and he saw these guys live, and he said Shedeur is an NFL caliber starting quarterback. That gave me a lot of relief that maybe, just maybe, some things go finally our way, and we found a gem in the 5th round, and this kid is our answer. The more I hear him talk, there's been a couple of interviews. He interviewed with Nathan Segura and Andrew Siciliano this week. He put some stuff out with him and Travis Hunter from his own team going down and getting their uniforms put on, doing their trading cards, doing their EA Madden stuff. It was really cool. It's kind of cool behind the scenes. I don't know how you don't like this kid. The more and more I'm exposed to Shedeur Sanders, the more and more I'm just I want to root for him so bad. I want this kid to do it. I want this kid to be the savior of Cleveland football. He's just incredibly. I can't fathom him being so much different in these meetings with teams that they passed on him when his talent is clear. He's clearly a 1st round talent. He has been for the last 3 years since he's transferred to Jackson, from Jackson State, and I just don't get what scared teams off, because every interview, every behind the scenes, when it's just him, unless he is the best actor in the history of acting, I just don't know how you can't get behind this kid and
I told I told you last week what these teams were afraid of, and it's Dion.
Yeah, and I think
Because
you're.
I think
No, I was just gonna say
uh,
I think you're being proven right with that take. Like I think you're 100% right with
because
that.
well, and we saw it though. We talked about how it kind of sucked for both Sanders boys during the draft weekend because not only was Shador and him having to be taken down a peg by the entire league, which is quite frankly it's bullshit. Because now you're bounty hunting against a 21-year-old kid, which that's a little gross. Um, but the thing that we also talked about and ad nauseum for that weekend was there was another Sanders that was getting drafted that weekend who got absolutely no press, no fanfare, no nothing. However, he did come out and say something. I want to say it was his first interview after getting signed by Tampa Bay, which was, yeah, our dad was acting as our agent and I need a new agent. So I don't think what was happening leading up to these team meetings was on Shador. I think they were having, to put it bluntly, they were having daddy issues.
Yeah,
And the
I
league
I
has a history of daddy issues. So there it goes. I don't think it was Shador. I think it was Dion. And
and
now
there.
that's again why Andrew Barry's conversation with him is so telling. We got to go to work. You got to bust ass. You got to earn your keep. And the only thing that Shador said to him, yes, sir.
Yep.
So at that point, now it's time to see what he can do. And I've said it before. I don't care where you went to college. I don't care if you can spell college. I don't know if you know what a college is. What I care about is when now you put on the orange and brown and you step out on field on Sunday or Thursday or Monday or whenever the hell it is, that you go out there, you bust ass, and you leave it all on the field. That's what I care about. I don't give a shit where you were drafted. I care about what you do from one game to the next. And now it's time to see what this kid can do.
Yeah, I can't wait. I'm hoping we flash forward 20 years and we're looking at the Hall of Fame career of Shador Sanders and thinking about this weekend and just how ridiculous it was that 32 teams passed over this kid at least 5 times. Like it's just crazy. And like I said, the more when you he can't be when you hear him in interviews or you see him on his own pod or his own, film, he can't be the more opposite of Dion. This is not a loud, flashy kid, and I've not seen evidence where this is a very kind of reflective. Like I mean, and he has a demeanor to be a quarterback. Like he has that demeanor. He's not going to get too high. He's not going to get too low. He's going to always be in charge of the huddle. It just once again, I hope Cleveland. I hope first of all he balls out, and I hope Cleveland embraces him, and I hope the rest of the NFL. I'm sitting here looking. I'm looking at New Orleans, and we found out this week that Derek Carr was retiring. They are stuck. They are stuck with Desmond Ridder and Tyler Shough. By the way, Tyler Shough, older than Desmond Ridder, who's been in the league for 3 years. Desmond Ridder's been in the league for 3 years. Tyler Shough, the rookie, is older than him. That's what they're stuck with. And they could have had Shador once again. They could have had Shador 5 times. And and by the way, I don't know. Did you see Derek Carr's tweet? So no. When Derek Carr announced his retirement, Dion tweeted out, "Man, they could have had Shador 5 times." And Derek Carr replied with a. So even the quarterbacks, once again, it's the old saying, and it's so true. Game recognizes game. Mm-hmm. There is a quarterback who's been very successful in the NFL retiring. He realizes Shador should have been the pick. He realizes it. And yeah, so it's just once again, I'm
coulda, shoulda, woulda,
I'm excited for this season. I really am. I'm not. We're not expecting a playoff type season. You can always. There's always a team of surprise in the NFL, but they are young. This core is fantastic. If you haven't, go on Cleveland Browns Cleveland Browns YouTube page. Watch the interviews with these guys. Watch the film
Yeah.
breakdown. This is a great crew of young men, and number 12 now, I think is gonna take the lead, and I'm excited to see all of this. I really am.
What I was kind of a little disappointed with, just talking about, the Cleveland Browns website. So this week we also got the schedule release for the matchups and who's going where what week and things like that. I was a little disappointed with the schedule release video. Like, don't get me wrong, I love me some Brownie the Elf. I'm all about it. I was so disappointed with our schedule release video. Like,
And I was gonna say, don't you find it odd when you have Shedeur Sanders on your team, but yet you get no prime time games?
I forgot about that one. Yeah, this time you almost made tea come out my nose.
That immediately, when I saw no primetime games, I was like, hold on. Deion's kid ain't getting primetime.
So a little backstory here, because we love to be all about transparency on the I-71 Playbook podcast. So when we were talking about the schedule release through text, you said that to me, and then me not realizing where you were going, gave the actual BB response of, well, they kind of gave us a whole bunch of primetime games last year, and we kind of shit the bed, so we're grounded. And then you come back with the, well, I guess, Shedeur's not prime. And I'm like, oh, I walked right into that. Just
my here's the thing though, I do enjoy about this. I love Sunday football games at 1:00. I do. I hate when the Browns have 4 or 5 primetime games. I absolutely hate it. They don't have a Thursday night game this year, which is fantastic. Which I forgot they changed the rule, because it used to be every team had to play on Thursday night, and then they changed that last year or 2 years ago. So that I'm happy I don't stay up till 11:30 to watch the Browns on a Thursday night. I'm cool with that. If they, and let's let everybody know out there, if they do find success or Shedeur becomes a starter, they're going to be flexed they can flex after week 10. They can flex at any game, and they will be flexed in a prime time. Especially, like, I know after week 10, we're going to have a Tennessee versus Browns game. And if both Cam Ward and Shedeur are balling, that'll probably get flexed, no matter what because both teams probably won't be very good this year. But if those two quarterbacks are showing promise for the future, they're going to want to feature that game. But yeah, so there's always chances they get there, but also you gotta earn those primetime games, unless you're Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, holy hell. They got their Thanksgiving and Christmas Day game, but then again, so did Detroit. So,
and look, Dallas hasn't been to a Super Bowl since the early '90s, but yet let's treat them like a perennial Super Bowl. They're one and done in every playoff if they get to the playoffs.
Talking about old white billionaires getting out their financial knee pad. Let's just keep it 100.
Yep. Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
And Jerry's been talented in doing what he does for longer than both of us have been alive. Side note, I just want to do a little tangent here before we get back into talking about the Browns. Speaking of how you love 1:00 games, you know what I don't love? The fact that Ohio State has every single game on their season this year is a noon kickoff game. Can we talk about that for a minute?
Yeah, I didn't see that. Oh, wow.
Week one, it is a rematch between our Ohio State University Buckeyes, national champions, and Texas.
Arch Manning versus Julian. Arch Manning and Julian Sayin.
So you would think that a huge game like that should be under the lights. No.
That's crazy.
It is at the Horseshoe. It is at 1:00, and that means I need to listen to Gus Johnson for another season.
Don't hate on Gus. Gus and Joel. Justin Klatt the best in the business. Come on.
Joel Klatt. Oh my God, Joel Klatt. You want to talk about getting out knee pads for a team? Joel Klatt. I'm gonna call it out how it is right now. And I live with a Michigan fan, but Joel Klatt. No, 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 no. And I understand it's Fox now has this agreement with the Big Ten, and the financial share, and I get it. It's more backroom deals and financial knee pattery. I got it.
I cannot believe I did not realize that game is not a primetime game.
No,
how is it?
It's not.
Like you have a matchup of the national semifinals. Texas, which in most are going to be number one. They're going to be the number one team in the country in the preseason. Ohio State's going to be top 3 in every poll. You have 2 brand new quarterbacks. The number one quarterback from not last 2 classes, from 2 classes ago, or 3 classes ago and 2 classes ago, and Arch Manning and Julian Sayin. And you're not going to put that on prime time. Nope. So here's my thought. That game's going to be flexed. They're going to have to move that game.
They're not.
We're still in May. Let's give them some time, but that is going to be the number one. I mean, that's the kick. That's how you're going to kick off the season. Like I'm surprised that's not like a Thursday night game, because they've been kicking off college football with like Thursday and Friday night games lately. I'm surprised that's not it, but there's no way that remains. Okay, hey, friendly wager. Okay, I don't know what I'll do on the pod, but if that game stays at 1 o'clock, I will do something embarrassing to myself on the pod. You think of it, challenge laid down. There's no way that game's not a 7 o'clock start. There's just no way. I'll think about it. Well, we'll wait to hear your diabolical answer next week.
Actually, no. I was just gonna say if you're wrong, no, we'll talk about that later. Never mind.
Sounds good. Yeah, let's clear it before we put it on the air.
Hello. But no. So sorry, you mentioned you're a fan of 1 o'clock games. I am.
I absolutely am.
That has been grinding my gears for about the last week and a half. It's just, and there were so many games last year that were noon starts. Like, I get you want the ratings, and Ohio State is going to give you the ratings, but at the same time, I don't want to spend the majority of my Saturday pissed off if they're not playing well.
Right.
Let me delay that a little bit.
I get that. And by the way, folks, this is kind of a little preview. This is a way ahead preview here. If Ohio State loses a game early, like say to Texas, the season's not over anymore. Like, I just wanted to make that clear. Like, if they lose a game, if they lose to a very, very good Texas, if they lose to a very good Texas, despite losing what do we say, 14 starters from last year's national championship game. If they lose, the sky is not falling. Give them some time. They can still win the Big Ten. They will still get in the playoffs.
It'll be okay.
They'll be 0-1, but they will be 0-0 in the Big Ten, and that's all that matters.
That's all that matters.
But my God, I just I can see people jumping off the top of the shoe. Just save me. One of those things. So anyway. I did not realize that all of Ohio State's games were afternoon games. I mean, hold on.
It's not okay. So hold on. All of their home games. Let me rephrase that. All of their home games are.
So
they are. Games, they can get night games.
I was going to say they are. I'm trying to think here. If I remember looking at their schedule, they have actually a pretty favorable schedule this year. They have for it being it's a reload year. Other than Texas. I believe we have Penn State at home and Michigan on the road. I think those were the three kind of scary games. Was Texas?
We're going to the big house.
Yeah, but Penn State, I believe Penn State's in Columbus this year, and then Texas was at home. But other than that, it looked like a fairly manageable schedule in the Big Ten because
think so. I'm not entirely. I'd have to take a look at it again.
If I
But
wasn't filming on my
and
phone right now, I would absolutely look at my phone. But you know,
well, and that's we got a couple more months for that. But that just
yeah.
kind of that's been grinding my
No,
gears a little bit. But so let's go back to the big boys of football. Let's go back to the Browns. Um, Also got some news this week regarding one of our players, Jeremiah Owasu Koromoa. And if I just butchered your last name, I am so sorry. JOK to all of us who
Owusu,
love him.
Jeremiah
Owuso.
Owusu
I
Koromoa.
Owusu.
That's all right.
Thank you. I apologize.
Brian
JOK to
Erlen
all of us.
Spiel forgives you.
Oh, and BB Von Schweetz apologizes. There's that. So anyway, JOK was placed on the unable to perform list, the dreaded pup list. So he will be out for the entire 2025 season due to the neck injury that he sustained. It was 2024, wasn't it? Like it was early
It
in the
was
season.
the Ravens game, like game 3 last year.
Yeah.
Game 3, game 4. Yeah.
He has released a statement that says, while I'm unable to perform, I'm still going to be, taking care of my mental health and my body and resting and supporting the guys as much as I can. So he seems to be in really good spirits about it. This is a great kid who is both on and off the field, and we wish him nothing but the best. But the the thing that's in the back of my mind, and I know the two of us kind of talked about it a little bit through text and off pod, is does he come back from this? Like that's neck injuries are kind of sticky, and especially in a high contact game like football. Like, does he come back?
You have to imagine he's had that talk with doctors. Hey, this happens again, you might not walk again. Like you just have to imagine those talks have happened, and
Right.
you definitely want JOK back on the field. I mean, my God, when he's on the field, he's good. Like he
Absolutely.
was approaching an all pro level type play. After 2023, he emerged as one of the best linebackers in football. And then last year, he started out just, I mean, incredible how good he is. And then this
Mhm.
happens. And as much as you want to see him on the field, you just want this guy to be able to walk the rest of his life. So hopefully,
Absolutely.
hopefully he makes what's the best decision for him. And football has to be number 2 in that decision. It can't be number 1.
I remember one of my favorite Buckeye players a couple of years back, and was very disheartened when he was also drafted to Pittsburgh. Ryan Shazier, who also took a gnarly, gnarly injury that ended up being career ending for him. But they didn't even think he was going to walk again. And the fact that when he and his team released video that he was walking on his own, that was the most amazing thing to see. So, uh, you know, nothing but love goes out to JOK and his family. Hopefully, I'd love to see him back on the field, lacing him up. Um, but just take care, listen to your doctors, and
Yep. Take care of yourself. And then if football's in your future, awesome. If not, you'll always be a Brown.
the dog pound will forever love you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I think there was one last thing you want to talk about, the Stanley Cup playoffs.
We are in the Stanley Cup playoffs, and just kind of this is kind of a different type of story. Um, I actually yesterday I got my kid to sit down and watch a documentary with me about enforcers called Ice Guardians. And it talks about the history of the position. There's a lot of interviews from some of like the great well-known names of professional hockey fighters. But it also talks about the human side of these guys too. They're not just these ice boxers or whatever. These are actual human beings with feelings and issues and whatever. So last night was Game 6 between the Dallas Stars and the Winnipeg Jets, and elimination game, must win. And one of Winnipeg's leading scorers, one of their stars, Mark Scheifele, got a little bit of unexpected news in the worst way possible. Um, his father unfortunately passed away earlier in the day on Saturday, and he made the decision to compete and play in Game 6. So that's obviously it's a high emotion game anyway when it's it's a must win. But now you've got this added layer of emotionality to all of it. Unfortunately, Winnipeg did not win and advance. However, after the game, every single player on the Dallas Stars roster came over, shook his hand, gave him a hug, said some nice, some words of encouragement as respect. So it was something awesome to see that you've got guys who any other game of the week for 60 minutes are beating the snot out of each other and skating hard, playing to win, and that final buzzer goes off, and now you're just two guys on the ice. So it was kind of nice and heartwarming to see under really really terrible circumstances. So unfortunately, again, thoughts go out to his family in this awful time. But it was nice to see the sportsmanship kind of shine through. Like you don't always see that. You always kind of hear about the bad stuff, and especially with hockey, it's always the fights or this, that, the other. Um, so a little bit of good sportsmanship was reminding us that there is a little bit of humanity left in the world.
When people ask why sports, it's those stories. Why sports? It is.
Mm-hmm.
It's incredible. Like you said, on the field of battle, you hate each other and stuff, but after the whistles blow, everything is done. We're all humans, and it brings out the best in us. It really does a lot of times. So the hats off to the Stars and to Winnipeg. Yeah, very good stuff. Very good stuff.
Yeah. So we've had a little bit of a roller coaster this Sunday morning. We both got a little spicy, a little feisty. Neither one of us had to go in the penalty box, so that we'll take it. We'll always take that.
Well, we'll take that. And I fought through without one single sneeze, so I'm proud of myself.
You did.
Because
I've just noticed that.
I've been sneezing like nonstop, so I made it through the entire hour of our pod without sneezing. So I feel good about that. Hopefully, I come back 100% next week.
I did. You had to talk about it.
It's totally. Once again, such Cavs, totally on me.
You talked about it, so then my nose is like, ooh.
I jinxed it. But no, next week we'll have Browns mini camp. We will have we'll talk about hopefully the Guardians don't get swept today by Cincinnati. And Tito. By the way, how weird. So weird. I know we didn't talk any guards today. We will next week, but it was so weird seeing Tito in a Reds uniform. It's so weird.
It hurt a little bit. It
did.
No,
I watched them.
No.
I watched the end of the game Friday night, and they're all celebrating, and there's Tito high five. I'm like, there's something just wrong with this.
Wrong. Wrong.
But
wrong color red, Tito. No.
But yeah, we'll talk about that, and like I said, we'll have plenty of Brown stuff to talk about next week too. So.
Yep. All right. So from the dog pound to the shoe, and all of the sneezing fits in between. I'm BB.
I'm BC.
This has been the I-71 Playbook Podcast.
Like and subscribe.